from now. From
box. Yeah, you're going to get rid of it?
Yeah.
Get it out of there? It might work for a minute,
Hey, I'll take that home.
but you're destroying your spouse when you use it. It might work for a minute, but it's destroying your marriage. It's going to be left in the shambles. This is not a great tool in the marriage. Let's look at maybe a tool to replace that.
Awesome. Love that.
How about a pair of scissors? You say, well, what are the scissors for? The scissors are so that you can cut your spouse slack.
Love that.
Cut some slack to your spouse.
Love that.
Cut them some slack.
Slacker.
This is a much better tool in your marriage than this. You're going to get a lot further, a lot closer, a lot happier, a lot healthier if you learn to use this a lot more than you learn to use this. You see, the scissors represent mercy, forgiveness, and understanding. Mercy, forgiveness, and understanding.
Love that.
And over again in the Bible, God talks about that as a quality of the Christian life. Colossians chapter 3. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion and kindness and humility and gentleness and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another of any grievance that you have against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them together in perfect unity. He's saying, cut your spouse some slack and you're going to get a lot further with them. Now I know that in some circles, this is considered to be a sin. What do you mean, cutting my spouse some slack? Aren't I supposed to disciple my wife? Make her holy? I tried it in our marriage. I tried to disciple her into being holy. And it never worked. The more I used this, the unholier she became. And it's kind of counterintuitive because in the church you're always talking about discipling your wife. But I said, I'm just going to do what the Bible says and cut her some slack.
That's awesome.
Forgive her for the things.
Good stuff, Bob.
Be nice to her.
Come on.
Wow.
Have compassion for her
That's
weaknesses.
a new teaching. Come on.
Cut her some slack.
Man.
And you know something? It took a little while, but all the times that I wanted her to change doing that, she wouldn't change. When I started doing this, the very things I wanted her to change for years, they began to change all of a sudden. She changed them on her own. It created an entirely different dynamic within our marriage. I believe that there is that forgiveness is a much deeper topic than what we give it credit for. I think forgiving someone is one of the most spiritual and difficult processes that you can go through. And actually in my book, I talk a lot about what forgiveness is, what forgiveness is not. Things like forgiveness is not just accepting a person's bad behavior. Forgiveness is not minimizing their bad behaviors, not being neutral about their bad behaviors, not justifying their bad behavior.
Right.
And then I go through in the book the process of how you forgive someone, and there's stages of forgiveness. And there's a lot of scriptures that go through with it. It's not just, I'm going to forgive him. I'm going to forgive him. It takes work. It takes thought. It takes prayer. It's a spiritual exercise. So we don't have time to get into all of that, but if you can get more forgiveness in your life, if you can learn to cut slack, this tool is going to work a lot better than the hammer. Amen?
Amen.
Yes. actually comes out, there's some other tools that makes the married couple decide to use the hammer. And so let's look in the toolbox for a couple more tools. This one, here's one that's in the toolbox. It's a mirror. Now, in some ways, a mirror could be good if I'm doing self-reflection and thinking about how I could be better and all that. But I'm not talking about a mirror like that. When I'm talking about with the mirror, I'm getting feedback here. I'm sorry. I don't want to create.
You're doing awesome. You're good.
What I'm talking about is using the mirror is that I look at the world and how people treat me, and the only thing that I'm looking at is how it reflects on me. And you know something? When I'm looking in the mirror, I can't see anybody else. I'm blocked from seeing anybody else. The mirror represents self-centered thinking.
Excellent stuff.
Oh, wow.
So in our story here, when Mike is getting ready to walk through that door, all he can think about is how hungry he's feeling. He's looking at himself. I am so hungry. I am so tired. I am so discouraged because my boss got on my hind end again today. He's tired. He's discouraged, and so he's focused on himself. And so when he comes in, he expects Mandy to be doing the same thing. Focus on him. Now, on the other side, Mandy has also got this mirror up. I'm tired. She's sleep deprived. She hadn't slept for a solid 9 weeks. She's lonely. Her friends and her have lost touch with each other. She feels like she's going crazy. So everything that Mandy does is interpreted through how it reflects on her. So when he walks in with his mirror and she's sitting there with her mirror, it's inevitable the hammer's coming out. Self-centered thinking. In Philippians chapter 2, in verse 3 and 4, it says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but also to the interests of others." This is a big issue. When you're focused on yourself and your needs and all that you want and how everybody's not meeting your needs and how everybody's things are just reflecting back on you, guess what? That means that you're not getting your needs met through your relationship with God. You're not strongly walking with the Lord. And because you're not strongly walking with the Lord, the expectations you have of the people around you go sky high, and you expect them to do things that God was the one who was intended to do those things.
Right. Wow, come on.
That's right.
And so because God's not meeting your needs through your walk with God, you become self-focused, and your expectation of your spouse becomes completely unreasonable.
Yes.
And you think only about yourself, and it can lead to using the hammer whatever you can. So, what can we use instead of a mirror? We can change the glasses that we wear.
Love it.
Come on, Bobby.
The glasses represent looking at your spouse through a different set of eyes. The mirror's not going to work for Mike and Mandy. When they're focused on themselves and how they're feeling and all they're going through, and rightly so, they're both going through a lot. And it's easy to get self-focused at a time like that, but it's not going to help their marriage. They need to try a different tool. They need to see their spouse through a different set of eyes. They can need to put down the mirror and think differently about the spouse. That is with compassion, with kindness, with understanding. One of the things that we go through when we take our couples through this series that we talk about in the book is, tell me something that bothers you about your spouse. We ask them, and we actually have them make a list of everything that bothers them about their spouse. And then we ask them the question, why do you think your spouse is why is she that way? I don't think she is that way. I don't think she is selfish. You know, some husband and I write down, my wife complains and she's selfish all the time. Okay, granted, your wife is selfish and complains all the time. You've got a selfish, complaining wife. Now, what are we going to do about that? We don't try to convince them that, no, she's not selfish, she's not complaining. No, she is selfish and she is complaining. Now, what are we going to do about that? And one of the things that we can help them with is to ask them the question, why do you think your spouse is the way she is? Why is she so selfish? Why is she so complaining? And I'll tell you, 9 couples out of 10, 9 husbands out of 10 that I ask that question, look at me and they go, I have no idea why she's that way. There's your problem. Right there. You have no idea why your wife is acting selfishly and why she's complaining. Go away, pray about it, and figure out why she's so selfish and why she's so complaining. And they'll go away and they'll think about it, and they'll come up with a different way of looking at their spouse.
It's true.
Instead of just looking at, she's selfish and she's complaining, they think, they become, she gets lonely, she gets scared, and when she gets lonely, she gets scared, she starts complaining, and she starts being selfish. Yeah, that's right. So what does she need from you, husband, when she's being selfish and complaining? Well, she needs for you to realize that's because she's lonely and scared. And if you kind of comfort her instead of hammering her, if you treat her differently in that moment, see her differently in that moment, and deal with her on the loneliness level or the fear level, she's going to stop being selfish and complaining. Just try it one time. I dare you to try it one time. And this is where that dirty dance comes in. Because when she's selfish and complaining, he hits her over the head with it. And when he hits her over the head with it, she comes back and knocks him upside the head with it. And they do this. They're on the merry-go-round, right? And they go right down that spiral.
Yep.
And all it takes in the dirty dance is for one person to do a step differently. Instead of you responding with a hammer in that situation, why don't you respond by cutting her some slack and showing her some love? You have danced a different dance. You ever watch 2 people dance and one of them makes a different step? It throws everything off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It just takes one step, moving along so smooth, and then the one misstep, and everybody stops. And that's a negative thing if you're dancing, but it's a positive thing in a marriage. If you're continuing to dance with each other and you're doing the same negative dance, and one of you just changes the step, uses the scissors instead of the hammer, it stops everything right in its tracks.
True.
And you're able to have a discussion.